Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show, The Hype Mind. I'm Daniel.
I'm Bear.
Here's Bear, and we have our guest,
George.
George.
Yeah, George. Very special guest today. He's a teacher. Can't tell you how long we've been trying to chase down a teacher.
Okay. What kind of teacher?
Technically, I'm a vocational technical instructor. I teach for the state of Connecticut, and I teach industrial electronics.
Dude, sick.
That's
Tell us
what
about
kind of
Yeah,
teacher.
yeah,
How'd you get into that?
okay. Tell us a story teaching. Let's get right into this.
You want to know how I became a teacher?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we want a funny
That's
story
fine.
with it.
Oh, it's funny. Don't worry.
Oh, good. 2 in 1.
Well, I tell this story often. My students hear it all the time, actually. So about 34 years ago, the gentleman who had my job at the time had a very bad heart condition. And
I thought you said this was funny.
it'll get funnier. And so anyway, he had a very bad heart condition. This is the serious part of the program, folks. And long story short, there was a number of substitutes that were coming into the room every day. And my classroom is a little different than the average classroom. I have my students for 7.5 hours a day. They don't do anything but see me for 7.5 hours. And we call it a shop classroom. Anyway, so when you're out for a day, you miss a lot of time with the kids. And this guy had been in and out for 3 weeks. And the other teacher, the department head, was getting very upset because, nothing was going on. Anyway, a long story a little short, he goes to the doctor and found out he's very ill, and he's just, that's it, he's done. He's not coming back, They kept telling us he was going to come back in 2 weeks, but he never did. So long story, a little shorter, the department head called me up and asked me if I wanted to come in and help him.
So they didn't want to give them the news of what's going on? Is that
He
why
didn't know the news.
Oh.
If he did, he was keeping it quiet. The problem was he didn't have enough time in the system to get a medical discharge. And if he told them what was really wrong with him, they may have fired him.
Which they did anyway.
No, they didn't. So the other guy calls me up and says, "Hey, I know you always wanted to be a teacher. Come down and give me a hand." And I said, "Paul, I really don't want to do that because I want to be a history teacher. I do not want to be an electronics teacher." And I said, "I don't really remember all that much about electronics. I've been 8 or 9 years out of, I actually went to that school and the other fellow was my teacher." So he said, "Yeah, all right, well, come in and talk to me about it next Tuesday morning at 7:15. And when he said 7:15, I just assumed we were going to talk before the kids got there. But that was not his intention. His intention was, so I walk in there, he goes, "Hey, here you go. This is your new teacher today." He throws me a textbook and says, "Teach them something."
Wow,
And
manipulation at its finest.
it was totally manipulated, and I just stood there looking like a penny waiting for change, and I said, "I really don't want to do this." And anyway, that was 34 years ago.
Okay, so you've been a teacher for 34 years.
Yeah.
But you like it.
I do. I love it
Okay,
when I actually get to teach. Just a little side cover on that. The gentleman who I was replacing, he ended up being absent for 4 years. And I came back every day for 4 years, and then they finally made me permanent.
Wow.
And I really didn't want that to happen.
Right.
But
Because you wanted to
it
teach
kinda
history.
did. Well, what I really want to do is what you're sitting in. I only took the job as a placeholder so I could pay the rent while I worked on this place. So that was the game. But in 34 years, we've kind of accepted the fact that I'm a teacher now, and that placeholder kind of stuck.
Well, I want to ask you about that, but first, what's been your experience working with Connecticut schools? Because you've been working with Connecticut schools since you started.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Connecticut school. What do you mean? What about you're differentiating? Connecticut schools versus what? Massachusetts schools?
In general, the American education system on a high school level, because you're teaching high schoolers, right?
Oh yeah, 9-12, yeah.
You lucky man.
Yeah, there are moments. Listen, I met a lot of nice people, and one of them is sitting right to my left, your right, is a graduate. He's one of my students from the tech school that I work at.
So that's how you know each other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. And I've been involved with a lot of great things. Connecticut is a tough place to live and work. It absolutely is. And I don't want to tell stories out of school, but Matt's girlfriend is trying to get her position as a teacher and position in life as a teacher. And, Connecticut's a real pain in the butt when it comes to certification. And, it's kind of a weird system we have here. You can't be a teacher unless you have a teaching certificate, and you can't get a teaching certificate unless you are a teacher. So
So you lucked out.
no,
You got
somewhere
the
you have
easy
to,
road.
well, in a way, somewhere you have to break the law. And the law clearly states that if you're teaching without a teaching certificate, especially 34 years ago, because it was a new law, they've since changed it a little bit. But back then, let's say 35 years ago, my principal would get a $10,000 fine and possibly terminated if there was a teacher working there without a teaching certificate. So the first thing they did when I went down there was they made me apply for the teaching certificate, which was a process I would not wish on my worst enemy. And but I went through it, and it basically took 3 years. So
For like classes to.
yeah, well that was just the first ball over the bow. As soon as they decided I was going to be there on a serious note, I had to go up to, I'm sure Andrew knows, Central Connecticut State University, which is in New Britain.
We don't
That's
know
the
anything about
teach.
that place.
Did you go there, maybe? Or
No.
Oh, you
No,
know nothing
no,
about
don't
that.
ask
Okay.
that.
Oh, don't mention. Okay.
Don't ask.
Don't ask. Don't tell.
Story
Got it.
for another day.
Story for another day. Well, I had to go up there nights. So picture this. I'm at work at 7 in the morning, and then I get out at 3, drive up to New Britain for a 4:30 class, there till 9:30, and I had to do that 2 or 3 nights a week. It got old the second day. And I had to pay for it all, $2,000 a course, etc. I had to do, to answer your question, I had to do 30 credit hours, which is about 11 courses.
And break the law.
Now, well, what they did was they said that my application was applied for. So we made application to the Bureau of Certification. That's what they call. I have to edit myself because I call things other names, but their real name is the Bureau of Certification up in Hartford, and it's in that lovely building, which is a monument to Murphy's Law up in Hartford. It doesn't have an end. You just keep going around. It's quite a place.
Gotcha. Did you grow up in Connecticut?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I went to that school. I graduated from
Feels like
from
home.
technical high school. Yeah.
Has it changed a lot?
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
In ways you're proud of, or
no. It's yeah. Well, it's going to change. We're talking.
Sure.
We're talking almost 50 years here. It's physically changed. They rebuilt the building.
oh,
So what was is very little of what was is still there. Now it's a lot more superficial, and let's put it this way: the new building will never last 50 years, like
isn't
the
that
like
the
the old
thing
one
about
did.
American architecture these days?
Well, if it wasn't American, I'd agree with you.
Hmm.
The architect was not, and I noticed other than his name, I met the man, and we had explained to him why the American flag needed a light on it. He did not know that.
Interesting.
So yeah, you learn a lot of things working at that place, or any of them. By the way, we're talking about a school system. We're one of the largest school systems in the state of Connecticut. There's 17 technical high schools in Connecticut.
So, speaking of that, have you had any experience or any opportunities to go outside of that school system, or are there's like teacher conferences?
Yeah.
And stuff,
Oh,
right?
oh, yeah. Well,
You're always
I've been
networking.
in other schools, and I've worked in this business in other schools, and it's there's really no there's no differential. I mean, kids are kids. They're not hard to figure out.
No,
and to
some
answer
people
you-
would disagree.
Oh, I'm sure vehemently. Kids haven't really changed all that much. The granular particulars may have changed. When I first started teaching at school, hats and Walkmans were the issue.
Right.
Now we have cell phones.
Right.
And
We're
hats
just you're just
still.
it's still the I'm going to listen to something and not you. It doesn't matter. They could be
Right.
They could be playing Parcheesi for all I care. It doesn't matter. They're not paying attention. So that hasn't changed at all.
So that brings up two questions. The first is how would you want to see schools improve from where they're at if you could?
Wow, if
Offer a
I could be the
solution.
rule of the world, okay, this is easy.
Yeah, give 'em
This
power.
is one thing.
Power to you right now.
right. Yeah. Okay, you ready? Get rid
Here's
of
the
those
scepter.
damn cell phones
In schools.
in schools.
Really?
And I'm more upset with the teachers than I am the kids.
Yeah, that's fair enough. It usually
And
just comes down to
and
leadership.
you would be a leader by example if you did something like that.
I'd probably be dead. I had a young lady who
Probably be a lot of pushback. Yeah.
pushback. No. I had a young lady whose parents took her cell phone away this last week on my advice. I sent a nice little email home saying, this is definitely a distraction, and she came in, and we all knew something was wrong. She was having trouble. I'm not kidding. She was having trouble breathing. The eyes were going in different directions. She had this look on her face like she missed the boat. And it took us a half an hour of voir dire questioning to find out what was the matter. And this was included the school nurse who was taking blood pressure and temperature. And she finally admitted that her mother took her cell phone away.
Jesus. Good Lord.
Yeah.
It was that bad. And I'm kind of kidding, but I'm not.
Right, right.
That's a true story.
Well, I
That
can
really
see that.
happened.
It's crazy. They
As
are
humans,
that
we just get
Yeah,
attached.
it's.
attached to
I
anything.
think cocaine is less addicting than a cell phone.
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty reasonable. There's some things out there that people are like, "That's not addicting," and you're like, "Yes, it is."
Come and sit in my room for a half an hour. You'll see.
Yeah.
But I have a great bunch of students right now. They come in. I told them. See, my whole thing is I prepare them for the real world. I prepare them for work. And my students are going to work at Electric Boat, Sikorsky, NASA, places like that where the cell phone is not allowed. You can't even have it out of your car,
Oh yeah, there's
especially a government facility.
I was
You-
just speaking with someone. I think the government's a little more lax. I mean, depending on what
and
area you're in.
anything with a camera, they don't want to know nothing because
Well, yeah, that's it. You
it's
got
a security
got to
issue.
keep it on the down low. But
Yeah.
I just ran into a guy who worked at a different electric boat in another state, and he was like, yeah, if they see you with your cell phone, they'll smash it right there. They don't
Absolutely.
give a crap. It's
Yep.
in the contract.
Well, they used to take the
and
film
they'll
out of the
fire you.
cameras. You can't take the film out of a phone, so
Yeah.
they just take the
Yep.
chip out.
And
know.
they'll fire you on the spot.
Fire in the
Yep.
spot, and
Which is good, like-
and
Yeah.
I want give me that job. I got 20 years of venom behind me, but no, it's really a shame because
Well,
these
they can't give you
kids
that
just
job
don't
'cause
get it.
you don't have an iPhone or a smartphone, so they don't.
Well, no, I got a
There's
hammer
no
now. I got a ball peen hammer. Do a good job.
Oh, the smashing
The
job.
smashing
Okay.
job, yeah.
Oh yeah, that. Ooh.
We used to take
Wonder
this.
how much that pays.
We used to. I don't care. I'll do it for free. We used to take the Walkmans and put them in a machinist vise. You know those big black
Sweet.
ones? Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
What's that?
Oh, give me your Walkman. I'm going to fix it. And then we get it, thin enough so you can mail it. Yeah, okay, it's all better now. Here you go.
What's that?
A Walkman is.
You don't know what
it's
a Walkman
portable
is?
tape player. that
No,
you could-
actually, it was a
Oh,
3D
yeah, yeah, yeah.
player.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well, what were the tape players?
Well, they were called Walkman 2. The
Oh, yeah.
Walkman 2, literally 2.
One was a portable
Right.
CD and one was
yeah,
a portable.
the
tape.
next
Right, right,
generation
right.
of
I used to
terror.
have
Yeah,
one.
me too.
Yeah.
I just didn't know it was called Walkman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if it was a Sony.
Early
Maybe.
2000s.
I think-
phone,
I
pretty
think-
hip for.
Yeah, I think
If you,
having
mine
an
was-
antique.
oh God, yeah, now we're talking 80s here.
Uh-huh.
But before that, yes, there was cassette
Yeah.
players, yeah. And we used to joke about that, that courses I had to take up at Central. One of our teachers gave us this big sheet of paper, and he says, "Draw your student on it." And it was.
You put a cell phone.
Oh, well, yeah, well, this is 30 years ago. But, so we all got in a group, where there's 30 people in the room. So we got in groups of like 4 or 5 and we go, oh, this will be fun, and we got crayons out and we drew this big picture of what we thought a student should look like. And there was this one bunch over in the corner who had never taught in a high school. And I think they went to private school. I'm not going to make any assertions, but let's just say they weren't with it. And at the end of the 20 minutes, they already gave us to draw the picture. We had all drawn pretty much the same picture. hat on the wrong way, pants down around their knees, and of course we
The
had
latest style.
Oh yeah, we had it. Well, yeah, they raged against the machine. They were against everything, but they were we put annotations, like a Snoopy cartoon, the bubbles, and arrow, bulge and pocket. Those are extra batteries for the Walkman, and stuff like that. And this bunch over in the corner there. Well, we decided not to participate in this obvious stereotyping and demeaning connotations of a innocent high school student. And we all just looked at each other and said, "Yeah, come with me for an hour tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see how you're." Yeah,
That's the funny thing about stereotypes is they exist for a reason. Like, yeah, it's not always appropriate to categorize people, but
it's never appropriate to categorize people. However, there's an old saying at the firehouse: "You see smoke, there's probably a fire somewhere." Okay, I mean it's there. But as a teacher, you can never categorize or lump or anything. Human nature does it, but we have enough trouble. But
I think we do it on our own.
Our biggest problem, is distractions. Like I said, I'm trying to get my kids ready for the workforce. So I just told them, you will not, if I see that thing, there's going to be trouble. And
What do you do?
Here's the beautiful thing. I don't know.
So if you see
You know what?
you don't
We
do
are
anything?
we are 100 and I don't know, 117, 120 days into the school year, and I have not seen a cell phone yet.
Wow. Nice. What is your method?
Well, that
There's people who want to
no,
know.
you bring up a good point, because I have people come into my room and they're looking at my class and they're looking at me and they're saying, "How did you do this?" And I said, well, it was very simple. I explained to them how this was going to go, and I guess on some level they were afraid of me, and it's never come to that.
Okay, so is it more they suspect you're going to take the ruler out, or they know if they're good they're going to get the biscuit?
A little of both. We have what we call the Rookie Cookie Award, and every couple of days we have an excellent culinary department. They actually teach people to be chefs. And I go down, and they make, Matt's seen them, they make these giant chocolate cookies, and they usually put M&Ms on the top of them or something, and they're $1.
Let's take a break. I'm hungry.
So I go down to the cafeteria, and I come back, and I get the cookie, and I give it to someone who's done something exceptional and really exceptional. And I mention that for a reason, because I told them, coming to school and doing your work and performing is not exceptional. Okay, I mean it is.
Oh well, by today's standards.
Yeah, standards.
Yeah, by today's.
Let's get it above the floor, shall we? But anyway, no, I said, exceptional to me, okay? And so generally, like today's Sunday, Friday, I gave a cookie to a kid. He was the first one to finish his OSHA 10 certification.
How long is that? What's that usually take?
Usually 10 hours, hence the name OSHA 10.
And so he got it done before the
Yeah,
rest of the
it's all
class?
done online. They're individual work. So we had a snow day last week, and he spent about 5 hours on snow day of his own initiative, and he finished it. Nice. So he was the first, and scored a 96 on the test. So he really deserves something.
And you're not being biased, choosing like the smart kid? No, I'm just kidding.
He's not the smartest kid in the class.
Nice.
He just happened to be the one that did the best on that.
So
you recognize, you reward that, and you punish the rest of it. And I haven't had to do a lot of punishing. Because
it's a little bit of both.
Comes down to the respect, I think.
Actually, yes. And you know what? If I respect them as students and they respect me as their instructor, leader, whatever you want to call me, coach, then we have a mutual thing there, and we have a great class.
Nice.
That doesn't always work. 2 doors down, we have the same age group, and they have an administrator sitting there just waiting for the next suspension. I mean, it's bad. Yeah, it's not. COVID really screwed up these kids. We got kids that come into the building in their pajamas, and with the phone like this, and kind of exaggerating, smoking a cigarette, but if they had one, they would smoke it. Walk in the door, and they say, you can't do this. Well, why? Because they've been home for 3 years. They've done whatever they've wanted to do.
Funny enough,
for the last
even
3
before
years.
COVID, people were doing that when I was in high school, and I remember being like, no, I don't want a dress code, and then I was like, That's because I don't need a dress code. I know how to show up in a pair of pants with a belt on, and they're up to my hips.
So, did you have a dress code?
I actually went to 2 different high schools.
Okay.
One I did.
And so beautiful. You're a perfect person to ask. Which one had the less trouble?
Well, I think there was like trouble that was
A different kind of trouble.
different kind of trouble. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. But I did like the dress code. It was just easy.
Yeah, I
You get
know
up
what
in the morning.
I know what
and
I'm
you
wearing
you're-
tomorrow morning. Yeah,
Someone
yeah.
was just
I hate
talking about that.
I hate like having to decide what it, like sometimes I can do that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like I want to like choose what I want to wear today, but other days it's like I have other problems to worry about. I don't want to like because it takes effort to make different decisions. Right? I'm making
And if
hundreds
you've got-
of decisions a day.
Do I show
got-
up
I don't
with the
want
same
to
pair of clothes?
you got
exactly.
a
Yeah.
kid
Then what are they gonna think?
Kid that shows up with their favorite gang shirt on and purple hair. Yeah, that's not going to be a distraction in my class today, you know. So, yeah, having them all see here again, it goes back to that respect and belonging. My students are proud to wear their shop uniform because they're part
Oh, they
of
have a uniform.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
That was
yeah,
my next
yeah.
question. Was do you have
They have a
dress wear issues?
no.
Because I mean, I've seen some pretty rough clothing in schools.
Yeah, or lack
Even
of
back
it,
when
or
I didn't
lack
care.
of it.
Or yeah.
But you know, it's just one more thing. And again, here's my argument. Take it for what it's worth. I said you cannot flip hamburgers at McDonald's without wearing a stupid blue shirt and a name badge.
Yeah.
Get over yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you want to go work
Yeah, and
at
that's McDonald's. Yeah.
yeah, McDonald's. Like, you know,
Like,
really?
yep.
You know?
So, okay, so you said your solution, your recommended solution would be take away cell phones. How would you recommend teachers follow your
let me take
suit?
that back. I don't want to touch the damn things, okay?
Okay, yeah, not necessarily take
Well,
them
there
away.
are teachers who are taking them away, and I said,
Right,
no,
that
no,
doesn't
no.
work.
Well, it does work, but I said, I don't want the liability. First of all, that thing's got more fingerprints than the FBI on it. I don't even want to touch the damn thing. And second of all, I drop it or I push the wrong button.
you're
You
in
know,
trouble.
Matt will tell you, every time I touch one, I always reformat the hard drive
Well-
of the damn thing. So I don't want nothing to do with it. I said, I've taught my students that the phone goes away. I don't want to see it, hear it, or even know about it. That is a more valuable lesson in my heart because now that student can go out tomorrow and get a job and doesn't have to worry. They're used to it. Just
Right.
like the argument our superintendent made that you have to wear a shop shirt, a belt, pants that fit, and an ID. We wear lanyards with an ID. My kids do that. They're used to it. The greatest compliment we got when we built the high school in Meriden, there's a law that says that when you get federal money to do one of these things, you have to hire a certain number of people from the town. So they were looking for laborers. Well, a whole bunch of kids from my school went up there, 11 of them, as a matter of fact, went up there to the office, and every one of them was hired on the spot because they walked in, dressed to work,
Yeah.
with their ID. They had their paperwork all filled out, wearing a hard hat and their OSHA 30. Sorry, Matt. Their OSHA 30. I knew it would happen.
I did it
Card.
just to test you.
Okay, they were ready to go. I don't care if they're
Yeah, be
the
prepared.
stupidest thing on earth. You know, too stupid to live. They had on a shop shirt. They were wearing pants and boots with steel toes, and they said, "We don't even have to train these kids." And they made such a big deal that they actually put an article in the newspaper about it.
Wow.
How well prepared. They got 0 kids from the other 2 high schools in our town.
Damn.
Our kid, and oh, by the way, the only reason the 11th kid didn't get hired, he lived in another town. He had to live in Meriden. They were disappointed they couldn't hire him.
One thing I liked that you did though was you gave it up to, or you let them make the decision to
Yes.
if they wanted to listen to you or not.
Yeah.
And you kind of taught
That's
them.
powerful.
Yeah.
I taught
You
them
taught
the
them how to
reason.
put their phone away themselves instead of someone else taking
So-
their phone from them.
So we go into an assembly. It's a company comes in to sell class rings, and it's always a 3-ring circus. No pun intended.
You ever
So-
got a class ring?
Yeah.
What a waste
Have
of
you
money.
ever? Yeah.
Yeah, they're like $800 for something that says I
aluminum.
graduated.
They're $800 for aluminum.
Yeah.
Yeah, gold ones are more. Anyway, so they're in the cafeteria. All hell's breaking loose in there and everything, right? So the guy says, "Okay, well, here they put up a QR code on the screen, and he says, take a picture." Did I do something wrong?
No, keep going.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay. So he says, take a picture of the QR code, and somebody will win a rabbit or something. I don't know what the hell it
Right.
is. Okay, some prize. Well, there's this big noise because one of the kids in my shop won the prize. My kids were the only ones that had their cell phones. Someone from my class was going to win because my class was the only one that had their cell phones. And all the teacher come after me and say, how come your kids had cell phones? You're the one that said take them away. I said, I never said take them away. I said they can't have them in class. They're not in class. They're in the cafeteria. And first of all, did you see the cell phone until someone said, take a scan? You go, no. I said, because it was in their pockets. I said, your kids are too stupid to know the difference of whether it's in their hand or in their pocket. Mine aren't. Why are you yelling at me?
Break that bell over them.
Oh, yeah, I don't care.
So,
So
okay.
nobody likes me anyway, so I don't care.
Well, once you accept that, you can do it.
Yeah, you can go forward. Yeah, quickly.
Oh, boy.
Well, I bet that's not your purpose there, is for people to like you.
Nope, because if I'd fail miserably. If I'm here to be liked, yes. I tell them that too. You know, I really don't care if you like me. I think, Matt, you were one of my students. Do my students like me? You can nod. You don't have to speak.
That's enough.
Oh, Matt and I go way back.
Okay,
But anyway.
so, yeah, that's funny you say that because I had this teacher my senior year, and she was like, if you're gonna go to an interview, you better wear a damn suit. And she's not wrong. Every interview I ever showed up to, I wore a suit, and
So Matt,
always got a comment.
Matt was a part of something called Skills USA. Did any of you ever hear Skills USA? It's kind of a vocational thing. It used to be called VICA.
It's a competition, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And Matt competed in it 3 times, I believe. And it's skilled trades and other types of competitions. Not point of my story. But the point of my story is it's a professional development organization.
Right.
When you join, everyone in the school is joined. We have a federal grant that pays for everyone to join this organization. And we teach the kids. When you arrived here this afternoon, I looked you right in the eye and introduced myself, and I shook your hand with a firm handshake. Did you notice that?
Sure did.
Because that's what I teach the kids. And I have an example of that. So about 4 years ago, I had a kid. He wanted to work at Dunkin' Donuts because it was literally across the street from his house, and he didn't have a car. And so he's going to go work at Dunkin' Donuts. So he goes in there, and he sits in a room very much like this at Dunkin'. They have this fireplace and some couches at Dunkin' Donuts because, they're trying to be Starbucks, I think. Long story short, he's in there, sitting there with a bunch of people. He says, now, first of all, the appointment was at 1 o'clock. He said, the guy opened the door at 1 o'clock, opened the door, looked out, closed the door. And 10 minutes later, he opened the door, and 2 people came late. One guy was in basketball shorts and no shoes. Another guy was watching a movie or something on the cell phone. My student, he wasn't wearing a suit and tie, but he was wearing clothes I'd go to church in. That's what I told him. Try to look respectable. When the door opened, he jumped up, put his hand out just like I taught him, shook his hand and said, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'm here for the job interview. Am I in the right place? The guy says, come here. He puts him in his office. He says, stand right there. He says, can you spell donut? And he goes, I think so. And he starts to spell it. He goes, good enough. Goes over, opens the door, and tells the rest of them, get the hell out of here. Now, that was total prejudice. But what was he prejudiced for? My kid came on time. He addressed him. Exactly.
Prejudice for that's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Well,
I mean,
people will argue that, but I'm not one of them. Okay, I listen.
Well,
they don't know everything
people
about
don't care.
electronics. They really don't. I don't. But I said I'm going to make damn sure that you don't, do something stupid like walk by the copy machine on your way out of the interview and say, "Oh, you have a nice computer." That's been done too, not by my kids. So yeah, it's. Yeah, if you want to boil it down, it's down to respect. It's down to human dignity. Do we make fun of each other? Absolutely. Some of the things that kids do, I tell them, you got to knock it off. We're going to up in guidance or something. But they're a good bunch, and they work really hard. Another thing I find wrong with education is students think that their education ends with the bell at 2:15. And I told my kids that's not true.
You're always learning. Yeah.
You should be a lifelong learner, and B, if your job is to come to school for me to teach you something,
You're in the wrong state of mind.
you absolutely are. Yeah. You're going to get very little out of this. I was forced to read a book about Abraham Lincoln. Are you familiar with the man?
Never heard of him.
Never heard of him?
He died young, right?
He died young. Well, there's a bad joke about that, Apparently he's the only one that
love starting
faces
bad
to
jokes.
he's the only one that faces to the right on the money. Did you ever notice that?
No, I
Yeah,
didn't.
he does. Well,
Wow.
apparently he does. I haven't vetted this, but apparently if he's not the only one, he's one of the few that face the right. The rest all face the left. And there was a great comedian on Comedy Central says, "Yes, because the hole in the other side."
Fair enough. I don't.
And
yeah,
people booed him. He says,
yeah.
"What? Too soon?" It's 160 years, but
The Indian
anyway.
nickel faces to the right too.
I'm sure it does.
Did you want to say anything about him?
Yeah, I do. Lincoln was a good man.
Not important.
It's okay. Yes, not important. Lincoln was a good man, and he was self-taught.
Yeah.
He was
Oh,
a self-taught barrister who became the president of the United States, and no one liked him. He was not a popular person, and he was very good at this. He hired his entire cabinet with people who hated him politically and physically, and he would just make them his friend. He would come on over, have dinner. Let's have a couple drinks. You know, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and that was his greatest success. Was that he didn't play to politics. He just said, you know, I don't need 12 guys who agree with me.
Right.
I want 12 people who are going to do their job.
A lot of things come to mind with this.
Absolutely.
I
So-
read a little bit.
It's a
about
great
him,
leadership strategy.
and I'm pretty sure he was working on a farm growing up, and he would
He was
he
like
would read.
4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He
That's how I learned.
borrowed books
Yeah.
to read.
I don't even think he could read. I think he taught himself.
That
didn't he?
too.
Yeah.
That too. You know, and he was a shocking man. I think he was almost 7 feet tall, which
Yeah.
most people were 4'8" at
But
the time.
even then, you know, I mean, one of the things I was reading about recently was this guy was talking about how there's nothing more important than your networking. Your networking. What did he say? He said, "Gosh, it was like the last sentence of his book." He was like, "Networking is your ability to become wealthy. Like the more you network, the better." And he was talking about how there's nothing more important when it comes to money than friends and knowing people. And even the book we read, Think and Grow Rich, they talked about your mastermind group. You don't have to know them. You don't have to like them. If they're good at it, hire them, and they'll do the work
I think
for
the
you.
more you love them, the least successful you're going to be.
Yeah,
Right.
that could be very true too. And so, just a lot of little matchups that come to mind with that. Going off subject.
Not really. No,
Yeah.
you talk about success, and you know, at the end of the day, I want my kids to walk out of there with some idea where to go and what to do. And I said, you know, you picked this trade when you were 13 and a half years old. Does anyone really think you had the wherewithal to figure that out at 13 and a half years old? You probably took the advice, Matt's going to laugh when I say this, you probably took the advice of your family or friends. It wasn't always a great advice. Okay?
That's true.
And it
Who's
seems
influencing
right.
Yeah.
You know, I went to school a long time ago. I was going to be a machinist. Everyone in my family was a machinist and a firefighter. I didn't want to be a firefighter, so I said I'll be a machinist. And I got there and found out that me and metal make rust. Nothing else. So
You're like water. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
you're following
well,
Bruce
yeah,
Lee's advice.
Well, that was, you know, it was probably the fireman throwing the water on made the rust. I don't know,
boy.
but yeah, it just goes back and forth, you know. And one teacher saw some good in me, you know, like what's his name?
When you're in school for being a machinist?
Well, we have this thing called exploratory. You go around, you do every trade for a week. They don't do that anymore. But when I was a kid, you went there for a week and you were there.
Did you like try it out for a little
Yeah,
bit?
even hairdressing. You know, we did it all. And you try it out, and then they give you a grade. But I was saying,
They don't do that anymore.
they do, but they don't do it for a week. We almost line them up and put marks on their forehead. You're a carpenter, you're an electrician. Not quite yet, but we're getting there. But like I said, though, my electronics teacher saw some good in me. And, you know, just like Darth Vader and what's his name, his son?
Luke Skywalker.
Thank you, Luke. Luke saw the good in his father there, you know. And by the way, just for the record, I predicted that the Emperor didn't die. Spoiler alert.
This is your guy right here.
All
you Star Wars nerds.
I predicted in the 1980s when that movie came out, I said they threw him down the hole. It was a big explosion. I said he didn't die.
Well, that guy was already dead. I mean,
No,
if you look
no,
at him,
nope,
whatever
nope,
happened with that explosion couldn't have killed him.
It took 30 years, but that son of a bitch came back.
Yep.
And
He was
not
probably
dead.
clinging there, and he
So,
was like, nothing can hurt me.
listen, I know a lot of Hollywood writers. Trust me, they saw an opportunity there. But anyway, with
Okay.
all my cynical heart.
So, I want to switch gears in a minute, but
Double clutch.
I still have a
smoother.
couple of questions. I don't know if Daniel has some too. My first thought is right off. You started talking about the teacher you replaced, and I remember in my high school experience, I had a teacher she was a math teacher. She was a really nice lady. You know, she went through some hard things, which I wouldn't wish upon anybody. But she wasn't there half the year, and like.
It's very
Yeah,
common.
there's problems that like I could have done better into, but it was not helpful not having my teacher there half a year. So it's just interesting to hear that from you because it makes me think of that and like, holy cow, if your teacher can't be there, get someone else.
I'll tell you-
Enough
I'll-
with the substitutes.
I'll
That's
tell you the difference,
the
though.
biggest waste of your students' efforts.
You mean like the switching of teachers and
I had so many substitutes. I learned nothing. I failed
Absolutely.
that math class. Took it again, almost failed it again the next year. And part of it was because I wasn't applying myself, but part of it was because I had nobody to consistently depend on who knew where I was and actually could keep track of it. So,
Well, two things on that note. First of all, it takes 18 months to replace a teacher.
that's
That's
believable.
that's a long time for exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
In fact,
Well, that's also
I don't even want to mention
one
it,
of those
but
things where
we
it's
had
like,
some
geez,
people
that's a horrible. That shouldn't be that way.
created a
Right.
class action suit against the state because we do not have teachers. We had a real period there. A lot of people retired and died, and mostly COVID. They didn't die because of COVID. They just moved on.
Right.
But long story short, we had 15 people.
Emphasis
We
on
only
retire.
have 89 teachers, and 15 of them were no longer with us for whatever reason. And then another 10 moved because it was the same story in other schools, and you had a lot of like a shell game, everything moving around. So when you got 20, 25 people missing from a building and you only have 85 to begin with, real
Yeah, you feel
real hardships in the educational
Well,
process.
and well, who feels that? The children,
They're the
which
only
is
ones.
the people who we're supposed to be showing up for. So
Yes, and it's tragic, and but I will tell you, that hasn't really changed over the years.
Sure,
But
that's true.
when Paul called me and he said, "I got a parade of substitutes in here that can't find their butt with two hands," I know you know something about this. It was his proactiveness.
Yeah.
Because this went on for 4 years. His name was Danny also. They strung Danny on for 4 years, so he ended up having 2 heart transplants.
good Lord, oh my gosh.
The first one didn't take.
I think
So
I
he
would've
was SICK, sick. I mean, really bad. In the meantime, I'm showing up every day. People thought I was the real teacher. People graduated there thinking that I was the electronics teacher because I was doing a good job. I put my heart in. I always do 110 in everything
And
I
you're
do.
there consistently.
Every morning. I never missed a day in those 4 years.
So I
Which
still,
they weren't used to because he had been in and out of the hospital so much. Like you said,
Yeah.
horrible thing. Wouldn't wish it on.
substitute
Yeah,
after
but
substitute.
change is necessary. Hard decisions have to be made. Oh my gosh, that's one of the things I just read in. Where did I read? I don't know. I read it in a book. Doesn't matter, right? He goes, if you can't make the hard decisions, move out of the way.
Lead, follow,
And,
get
like,
out of the
yeah,
way.
Exactly. Like
Mhm.
if you as a school leader can't decide to kick someone because they're going through hardship,
No. So
it's about the kids.
Well, it
unfortunately.
is
So,
and it
like,
isn't. Unfortunately, what you got here, and this maybe give you some understanding how this works. Okay, yes, it's about the kids. Education is over here.
Well, it's not to say you shouldn't look out for your teachers.
They can't even do that
That's fair enough too.
because the
Okay.
teachers. I don't want to say a bad word here, but the teachers belong to a union.
That's true too.
Okay, and the union has very specific rules and procedures for a reason. If it wasn't for the union, they would have closed the technical high school system 30 years ago. The governor wanted to. Actually, 2 governors wanted to, because it was politics. They just didn't like us.
Right.
Now they love us because they realize that we need machinists and carpenters and electricians all over the place. So there's a little sine wave going there. Your popularity goes up and down regularly. But the reason it takes 18 months to replace a teacher is because we're state employees and we're union, and you have to follow all the friggin' rules. Now, my principal would love to go into a room and say, "Out."
Right.
Can't.
Well, there's necessary
how long
to have protection
Correct.
from some things.
Correct. Well, you want protection against a principal hating you and you losing your job because they hate you. On the other hand, though, if you have a real problem, it takes a long time to address the problem.
Right.
And that's not fair to the principal, it's not fair to the school, and it certainly isn't fair to the kids.
Yeah.
And so we're in a tough situation because education cannot be run like a business. However, the school needs to be run like a business. And that
How do you compromise?
you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. You're always between a rock and a hard place, and and I've talked to my
life.
principal. Well, yeah, true. Yeah. Is it really any different in the private sector? No. You got the boss's brother-in-law screwing up production. Well, you can't say anything because he's the boss's brother-in-law, and that's pretty much where we're at.
Okay, so going back to your other solution, you were like, okay, kids with cell phones in class, no, right?
Mm-hmm.
And clearly all of your what's the word? All the other teachers, I can't think of the word for that.
Cohorts,
There you go. That's a good word for it.
coworkers.
Coworkers, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they can see that that's working. They want to know what's up. They want to know how you do it.
Right to the point where they have to do something about it.
What do you mean?
They come in and say, "How did you do that?"
Yes.
And then I tell them, I say, "Oh, I can't do that." Then
Oh,
suffer.
so there's the problem. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, what would you tell any teacher who is opening to hear it? What would you tell them other than you talked about respect, the mutual respect. You talked about that letting them make the decision. Is there anything else on top of that you'd say briefly on if you were to give them a brief rundown on how to get your students to be more?
It's very quick and very simple. Don't be a hypocrite. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Kids are not stupid. If you go in there and say, if I see another cell phone, I'm going to smash it with a hammer, you better have a hammer and you better be willing to smash that phone because one of them is going to
Follow
test
through.
Absolutely.
Yep.
One of them is going to test you, even if it's a burner phone, even if it's his friend's phone. He's got they've done that too. If you don't smash it.
I want to see this showcase of smashed phones.
The first day I was there, I'm still friends with this kid. His son went to my school later in life. I can't call him a kid. He's 50 years old. And he came in there, and we're sitting in we have this room called the theory room, and they're being the latest substitute. We threw 5 of these out last week. Who are you? They're testing me. I said, look, I went to this school. I've seen it. I've done it. Whatever you think you're going to do, I probably did it twice. I have very good vision and very good hearing. At that time I did. And I said, so whatever you think you're going to do, let's just cut to the comedy and let's cut the comedy and let's just get to work here. Oh, yeah? You got such good vision? He was from New York. I'm trying to do a New York accent. He
Good. You're really good.
He says, you got such good vision, he says. He holds up a quarter. Heads or tails? Now, between you, me, and the grand piano, which is over there, I could see it was a quarter. I had a 50-50 shot. I said heads. Guy goes, son of a bitch. Instant behavior. It could have went bad. It didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe my grandmother was looking out for me that day. I don't know. Something went right, but yeah. And from then on, the next day they handed in their paperwork.
Your confidence went up, and you never.
Well,
had problems
it
with kids
just
again?
it just kept going. They want to know. I gave them an assignment, and they said, "Can we type it?" I said, "Sure." So this was long before
there you
computers and everything, right? So this kid, they bring in all these pieces of paper, and I'm sitting there and watching them, and they're all handing them in. They were proud of the fact they did their homework. First time in 2 years they've ever done the homework. So I'm taking the papers, and I'm holding them up to the light, and I'm going, amazing. The same spelling errors, the commas, the period. The only thing that's different is the name. Wow. You guys are, I can't say the word, you're in tune with each other, right? And they're all sitting there looking at me, and I said, well, I know how to figure this out quick. And how are you going to do that? I said, and I went over and threw them in the trash. And one of them stood, hey, I spent time. Okay, you're the one that did it. Now, the rest of you. And from then on,
You
Said,
know how
much
to
money
play
did
the
you make?
game.
Split that.
I meant what I said. You don't think you're the first idiot to study carbon paper? Come on.
They said, "Damn it, we thought you were a substitute."
Yeah, no,
You're like,
no.
okay.
And-
So what would
and
you
then
tell,
I actually did know something about electronics. That helped a lot too.
what,
So,
what would you tell kids in school right now if you could share some advice for children in the state of the world today? It'd be like,
well, at the risk of getting maudlin, you think your life sucks now? This is probably the best it's going to be. Okay.
always keeping it positive.
Well, you better act like it, okay? And better take
Yeah,
advantage,
appreciate it, yeah.
appreciate it, and take advantage of it. If you're walking around dragging your tail now, wait till graduation day, and you got nowhere to live, no money, no food. It's not going to get any better. So pay attention. I mean, every teacher tells you to pay attention, but try to find someone successful and say, well, how did you do that? Or just
That's a good one.
hang with them a little bit and see, let's say they don't wait till 1 o'clock to get out of bed every morning. Maybe they get up with the sun. Maybe they work 3 jobs. Maybe they are working at some dead end job while they're going to college at night. It doesn't even have to be college. You can take a course on how to shoe a horse. You're bettering yourself. I had a gentleman a long time ago taught me how to drive a school bus. I was a Boy Scout leader, and I needed to know how to drive a school bus and get a commercial driver's license to do the same. Not exactly a
Teach me to
trade.
drive a school bus.
Any minute. You got a bus? Okay.
Shoot.
But long story, you know how much money I made with a commercial driver's license over the years? Driving a fire truck, driving sports teams for my school. They pay you to do that.
I knew I wanted a CDL.
Yeah. And having a commercial driver's license is really kind of cool. And I always said, hey, fire me. I work tomorrow. I might be driving a dump truck and a dump, but I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
And I know how to do that. I know, we restored a 92-year-old fire truck down at the firehouse, which I was very proud of. And, I was one of 2 people who was physically able to drive it because this man 30 years ago took the time to show me a simple task. So I tell every kid, I love to watch somebody do something. Oh, you're going to go, I mentioned shoeing horses.
Mm-hmm.
I had a history of that too. Did you ever see someone shoe a horse?
Yes.
Okay, well, you're
look
from
pleasant.
you're from the country. You probably have seen a
Once.
horse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
How about you,
I've seen a horse.
city
once.
boy? You know the concept of shoeing a horse?
No.
Okay. It's something to see, and the craftsmanship and being you're basically a machinist, right? You work with metal all day, so I'm assuming you know something. To watch them, well, we're faking it till we make it, Andrew. But
That's what the handshake is. That's what dressing up is.
Yep,
Faking it till you
absolutely.
make it.
Yep, it works. But to watch this craftsman take this hunk of steel and pound the living shit out of it with a hammer until it fits the horse's foot. The horse you don't modify the horse, you modify the shoe to fit the horse.
Oh, the one time I saw it, they were modifying the horse.
Well, they do.
It didn't work out very well.
Yeah, that's how you throw a shoe. Okay. And I say, you know what? I watched the guy do this. Could I do it again? No, I'm not qualified, but I got the general gist of it. And I tell my kids, anytime somebody wants to do something, change a fuse, put a new light fixture up,
Watch someone.
watch somebody.
Yeah.
I had a guy come into my home. I paid a Finnish carpenter to come in and hang doors in my home. I was remodeling my home by myself, and I have a lot of doors. And I paid a Finnish carpenter a lot of money, like $100 an hour, to come in and hang doors, just like the one over there. And I said, do you mind if I watch? He goes, no, he's a nice guy. He says, no, I don't mind
He
at all.
didn't know you were going to steal his business.
Well, I didn't steal it, but he put 4 doors in. His name was Mike.
Go home.
Yeah, well, he lived in New Jersey, believe it or
Go
not.
home. I'll do the.
He had a 5-hour ride, So he wanted to get done around 2 or 3 o'clock. He was going to go home for dinner. I said, okay. I said, what do you want? Here's the bennies. Go. Thank you very much. So he says, well, I'll see you next week. I said, no, I don't think so. And he goes, why? He said, did I do something wrong? I said, oh, you do beautiful work. I said, I said, no, I think I got it.
You're an even better teacher.
Yeah. I said, I think I got it. He goes, you got it? I said, yeah, I'm going to try it myself. So there's 32 doors in my house. Mike put up 4. I put up the rest.
Gosh.
They all swing. They're not all perfectly hung, but I didn't charge
You know
myself
which ones
$400.
to end with and which
Yeah,
to start
I
in.
know which one to avoid. I'll show you the good ones. But I put up that door. It's right there. Okay, and
That one doesn't close for the record.
Yeah, no, it does. Don't get smart.
Okay, so
There's light around it. But anyway, no. I'm not a hypocrite. I tell my kids to do that. I do it too, and they like to be like me. They want to
leader
look
by
like,
example.
Oh, I walk in. I don't have a dress code. I can come in basketball shorts and naked if I wanted to. There's absolutely no dress code for my in my union in my teaching. What do? I dress up like the kids. Nod your
And
head,
I think
Matt.
that's why they respect you
Absolutely.
too.
They want to look like me. They want to act like me. They want a nice car like me. They want to be me. And I said, no, don't do that. That's pathetic. Don't be like me. But that's their goal. Okay.
Well,
and,
that's
and to be able to do things like I do. Again, I keep mentioning my studio assistant here, engineer. I don't want to sell him down. Matt over here. Matt came up to me the other day and showed me some soldering he did. And I looked at it and said, that's damn good. That's better than I could do. Well, 2 years ago, that wasn't the case. Okay. I showed him how to do it. He's been practicing, and he's doing a really good job with it now. I can hear him saying it. I want to be able to do this as good as George. And if that's all you do in my class, if you can do it as good as I do, you're probably going to be successful. I hope when you graduate, you're going to do a little better. My advice to the kiddies out there in TV land, start with that. Be as good as the person teaching you, and then next year come back and show them how you can do it better.
Yeah, pay attention, watch. Yeah. You know what's interesting is
So
most
many
of the people that I
resources.
remember meeting in school, every time you asked them, or every time the teacher asked us, I should say, how do you learn best? They'd always say, "Oh, I'm visual. I like to watch people do it." Right? But it's like
Learn
then
by
you have
doing.
the opportunity to do it.
That's
and
why
they
we
don't
have a
pay
tech
any
school.
Attention. It's like no, pay attention. But the other thing is, I remembered what came to mind when you were talking about Abraham Lincoln, and I had this discussion months ago with someone. Most of the most successful people in the world came from the absolute bottom, like absolute bottom.
Climbed their way out.
Yes, exactly. Like
Hardworking.
Abraham Lincoln, Michael Jordan from the bottom, Tony Robbins from the absolute bottom. I could probably name 100 more, but they're not popping up. Top of my head.
Colonel Sanders.
Colonel Sanders.
Harlan Sanders. Alexander Graham Bell. Well, he had money, but
So it's like when
he
you think you're on
started
the
from
bottom,
the bottom. Yeah.
you're in the perfect position to go
Thomas
to the
Edison.
absolute top.
Thomas Edison never had anything either. He was.
And he's one of the most world-renowned people ever.
Yeah, great inventor.
And the other thing is, this other gentleman I was listening to earlier today, he goes, nothing's going to change your life like trauma is. He goes, the most influential, motivating thing that'll ever occur to someone and does motivate people is trauma. Every time they have a traumatic experience, that's when they start doing the work. That's when they start looking for the knowledge.
If
and the
you
answers.
also look at all those people you mentioned, they
experienced
failed
that kind of-
and went bankrupt at least 3 times before they made it big.
Or they went through an incredibly traumatic or dramatic or
Harlan
horrible
Sanders
experience.
had a car accident and half of his head was scalped, and he didn't have any money to go to the doctor.
I'm going to research the other stories.
Yeah, he yes, it was incredibly traumatic,
Yeah.
and he was a tire salesman, by the way, which was ironic because the tire blew out. But yeah, and he just ended up recuperating in a place that needed a gas station, is what it boiled down to, and he saw a need, and he made it work for him.
That's it.
And he finally got on an even keel and did really good, and then they built the interstate highway system, and he put him out of business again for the 3rd time. But everybody knows about KFC.
But that too is key. You look for what the world needs, and you provide
And
it,
remember
and
that
you'll
the
never
world is
go
constantly
broke.
changing. So
Yep,
what
that too.
worked 10 years ago is probably not going
Right. Yeah, it does change. Yep. And
You want to be
different jobs are in demand, and
you want to be the best Conestoga
Flexible.
wagon wheel builder in the United States. That's great, but you're not going to have a line of people looking for
right.
those.
A few. All right. Well, let's.
right. Let's wrap up.
Did you have
real
a
quick.
question? Okay.
I did a lot of talking. You didn't ask much questions.
That's all good. That's all good. We, that's
Mm-hmm.
what we're here to do, to have a nice, chill time. Let's talk about your studio real quick, right? Because that's where your passion really lies.
That's what they tell me. Yeah.
Or that's what you told me.
Yeah. Well, I came over the hill into this space and built everything that's here. Learned. I only went backwards once.
Oh, so you got at least 2 more times to go.
You want to
Yeah, that's what I hear.
tell
yeah.
everybody how how long it's been since you?
It started 27 years ago. We took the key over to about 6,000 square feet, and we built the studio, which is actually behind me right now. We're in the lounge, and this was an office originally. This space here. The studio is pretty
like the lounge
soundproof. It's a building within a building. I had a book that was 20 pages long, and I actually went to a recording studio out in L.A., and I just looked around, and I said, I could do this. And I came back here, and myself and another great guy, Jason, nights and weekends, we put literally our blood, because we got cut a lot, literally our blood into building this place. And it's my one hope that Matt here, as our current studio engineer, is going to do well here and make something of it. So
What's your
Well, what
studio
it
called?
like? What
Would you-
inspired you?
Northeastern Sound
Feel free to
Company,
advertise
NSC Studios. You want the address?
Yeah.
180
Phone
North
number.
Plains, 180 North Plains Industrial Road, Wallingford, Connecticut. We don't have a phone. We use our cell phones, but we're on we're on everything,
Where
aren't
can
we?
people reach you?
So okay,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
answer that first.
I don't know where I get him.
That's
You can
It's-
reach me by knocking on the door, but
I love it.
NSC Studios in Wallingford. All right, what were you saying, Dan?
Connecticut.
Yeah. So you said you saw a studio in L.A.
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you wanted to like
Well, I kind
you
of
just were like I can do this.
I scaled copied it. I asked a lot of questions. Well, why do you do this? Why do you do that? Why is that there? And I said, oh, that makes sense. Okay. And I came back here and I copied it.
But like, was there any more inspiration behind it besides I can do it, or was just
Like, did you?
I wanted to do
wanted a
something.
Studio.
Well, you don't know me very well, but the quickest way to get me to do something is tell me I can't do it.
okay?
So
Now we know you really well.
yeah, you know the magic button there. Yeah, Jason and I took it as a challenge, and we worked really hard on it. And it's also it's nothing like it was 27 years ago. I mean, it's constant evolution. You know, I'm not a hypocrite. What worked, well, for instance, the first time we did anything here, we did it on tape. Now it's all computerized.
With your Walkman.
Pretty close, reel to reel, and but you know, that's all gone. I mean, we still have the reel to reel and all that stuff, but you know, now we're using Pro Tools and you know, nice computers, and we're all networked and everything. It was, you know, that's just the way it is. We still do the live work too. That was the other thing. That's how we paid the rent for years. Is we did sound jobs. We do dance recitals and graduations and everything but a disc jockey.
You left the walls of your fortress.
Oh yes, often. Yeah, put everything in the truck and went. I miss those days. I really enjoyed them, but I'm getting a little too old to carry those big, heavy speakers. So
That's all the mindset.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it's mostly in the back. The mind was always weak. The back
back
is,
works
the back
for the
is
mind.
showing up for the meeting, but yeah, that's what we do here.
Oh, George.
I'd like to do more. I don't know if any of your listeners would hire a sound guy or not,
But if you would, then you know to call NSC in Wallingford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
If they'll give out their phone number.
well, we don't.
But we'll put an email up on the YouTube channel.
Okay, yes, we'll do that. Yes, it'll be under the comment section, I'm sure.
Did you have any more thoughts?
You don't know anything?
Not really. He knows all
Well,
he needs to.
Yeah. We had a good conversation. Do you have anything else?
No. Okay. Well, our
I
Uh-huh.
thought you were going to ask me something
would-
hard, like how do you know what to teach?
well, you don't. You were thrown into it. And you said you didn't.
No,
have
no,
a
no,
clue.
no. How do I know what to teach each day? You know, the curriculum and all.
Oh,
that.
you- Man, I
We actually
assume you
have
do what I
a
do.
we actually have a curriculum.
You just make it up as you go. You fake
I
it.
literally wrote it.
You wrote it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, rewrote it. Yeah, but anyway,
Did they pay you extra for that? Just
yes, they
kidding. You
did.
don't- Really?
Yes, they- oh yeah.
Wow. I feel
Well,
like that's a
okay.
first.
Well, I
George
got a
doesn't get
question
out of bed
here.
without extra money. So go ahead.
So you never got to teach
Unless you're told you
history.
can't do it.
You know, I do teach a lot of history. I teach the history of electronics.
Sneaks it into that
Nice.
course.
I
Sneak
really
it in.
do. I really do. I'm passionate about history. You know, I like historical things. I mentioned Abraham
favorite
Lincoln. My
Historical
favorite?
period or subject to talk about.
I be honest with you, it's sick. I really, really would love to go back to 1930.
The Great Depression.
1930.
Sweet. That's actually a fascinating subject.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about all happy about the Great Depression, but I told my students the other day what I wanted for my birthday was a 1931 Ford.
His students like him so much that they buy him presents for his birthday, like 1932 Fords,
31
31 Fords. Teachers take note.
sedan, and they looked at me and said, "The bite," and I said, "Well, why would you want that?" And I said, "Oh, I want one just like Bonnie and Clyde had." Do you know who Bonnie and Clyde were?
Yes.
Good. How about you? No, he
You
has
think
no
I don't
idea.
know who Bonnie and Clyde are?
Who were they?
They're
Two people who had a
Two
31
robbers,
Ford.
yeah.
Right?
we drove around a car and robbed
Yeah.
shit.
So, but everything's a teachable moment. I mentioned Bonnie and Clyde, and I could see in their eyes they didn't know who they were, and so I got this beautiful thing in my room. It's called a smart board. It hooks up to the internet and everything. It's basically a big TV set.
You just
And-
heard about that the other day.
Who did?
You did.
Oh, you're killing me. But anyway,
I knew you were dying anyway.
so I turn around. I said to the smart board, put up a picture of Bonnie and Clyde's Ford, and there it comes up, and they're looking at it and saying, well, why are there holes in it? And I said, well, that'd be the 4,000 rounds of ammunition they put through it. I said, I don't want one that looks like a cheese
you know how to get
grater.
their
I
attention.
want one that runs.
That's
but
why they're not on their phones, because you know how to get
because
their
I
attention.
know how to.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see, Dan, you're a smart kid.
Power.
You're a smart kid because when you say something, you see a little glimmer of hope, you go right for it. And I show them the picture of it, and I said, "That's what I want for my birthday." And a couple of them wrote it down. It wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't be surprised if they came up with a model of one or something, just to be funny. But they're great kids. You're right though, Dan. When you get their attention, that's the best thing I give advice to a teacher. Once you get their attention, the rest is easy.
You know
I
what?
feel like you are a teacher, but you're also
I'm a performer.
yeah, exactly. An entertainer.
Absolutely.
You
Stole
have
it
to-
right out of his
I've
mouth.
said it. I've said it for
And
years.
You have to make the
My-
information
my-
exciting. And
My hero is Johnny Carson, standing in front of an audience for 30 years doing a monologue, bombing every night, but he just kept going back, and doing it. And I got a 30-year run too. Not with NBC, unfortunately, but I got the state of Connecticut. Close enough, I guess. I'm well paid for what I do. I'm not complaining about that. I love what I do. I look forward to going there and waking somebody up. And if I can turn a kid on to anything in my trade, radio, when I say radio, I mean like a radio station, old school analog television, robots, automation, whatever. As soon as I find your chink in your armor, you're going to hear all about it.
if I were to guess what part you love about it, I think it would be the challenge.
Well, every day is a challenge, yes.
Or the amount of influence you have on them,
So
to
a
inspire
real
them
quick
to,
example of challenge. Every morning they come in, I give them a problem. It's up on that whiteboard smart board you say I just discovered. But anyway, I put a problem up on the board when they come in the morning. That's to keep them busy while I take attendance and everything. And I gave them a problem they could not do. I knew they could. I couldn't do it. Okay? It was a simple problem, but it requires a degree in calculus. You have to do a simultaneous equation to figure something.
Simple if you're.
It's not simple. The problem is simple. The solution's not simple. And I gave them the problem, and I just sat there staring at them, and they sit in a circle. The chairs are in a big U shape, and I'm sitting there like I am now, and I'm watching them. And I really wanted to see what they're going to do.
Oh,
Now,
they do it together? It's a group effort?
it's not supposed to be, but they do.
Huh.
Okay,
Oh,
and I
wow.
don't get
You've
upset.
bred your own little tribe.
Oh yeah. I don't get upset when they work together because that's what you do in industry. No one's
Right.
a lone ranger.
Bullshit.
We got a problem. Everybody
have to
sit
be
down and figure it
teamwork.
out.
Yeah,
team
team
effort,
player.
team worker. So anyway, I'm sitting there and watching all this. They're tearing their hairs out. They're opening up textbooks. They got their Chromebooks open. Their Google. I said the answer's not on the internet. Don't bother looking. Right.
I like the
I
kids who don't
was
stop
so
looking at their phones.
proud of them. They tore their hair outs for a half an hour, and they were really starting to sweat because they wanted to find the answer. They didn't care anymore about anything else. They just wanted to know how to do it. And I finally said, all right, stop, enough torture. And they looked up and said, what? I said, just stop. I said, you can't answer the question. It's a conundrum. You can't answer this question. And they said, yeah, but how would you do it? And I said, well, the easiest way to do it is just hook it up and observe it. Just do it. And they said, was that even an option? And I said, no. I wanted you to figure it out with math. And I said, but that's the name of my school is Wilcox. I said, that's the Wilcox way. I said, if you can't figure out how to do it, just do it and see what happens. Plug it in and see what burns.
Make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's it. You want to know what happens when we put this many force pounds behind something, do it, see where it lands, and that would be the answer. I said, there is a way to solve it, physically doing it, but mathematically you don't have the education to do it. 3 of them came up to me and said, where can I get that education? I won. Because now they want to know how to do something like that. I said,
you should just offer to teach the whole school.
Yes. Uh-huh.
People
can we expand my classroom?
People
to the
have
auditorium?
suggested worse, and I've thrown them out in their ear. One of my kids suggested I be a math teacher. I said, shut up. I want no part of that. But I do have to teach
Just
them.
link history with math.
There's a lot of history in
Yep.
it. I have
Math
to
has a
teach
history.
them higher order of math as sophomores because they won't get it in high school until they're a senior, and we need to know it today. To do our work, we need to know, for instance,
Well,
trigonometry.
that's really inconvenient.
It is, but and I had a teacher come into my room and said, "You're teaching them trigonometry?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "How do you do that?" I said, "I sit down and I show them how to do it."
You're like, it's simple.
Make it simple.
Believe it or not, I start with a picture
Keep
of
it
a
simple.
tree, a little stick figure in a tree.
Yep. Trigonometry.
Trigonometry. I said, "That's how you find out how tall the flagpole is. Weren't you a Boy Scout?"
Don't ask that question. That doesn't. I don't think that.
I'm
Means
very
that much
proud of the
anymore.
fact that my friend here is an Eagle Scout. And that's how you do things with orienteering, degrees, angles, figure out how high something is. Count. Yeah, he's shaking his head now.
You
He's
do it on your
a
phone
modern Boy Scout. He uses the phone. Yeah.
Of course, you don't know that because
Yeah,
you
he
don't have
doesn't.
it.
I don't have an iPhone. Anyway, all kidding aside, for like I said, anytime anyone showed me how to do something, I paid attention. You just don't know.
Well, good. That brings me to my question.
Your parting question?
Yeah, my parting question. Les Daniel, you have something?
No, not really. I mean, it's
You've
all
left him
good
speechless.
stuff. Good stuff you talked about, especially the influence you've been on them about dressing up well and having a firm handshake. I mean, you can tell.
Self-respect.
You can tell. Yeah, it's that your first impression
Tip
that
of
you
the
have
sword.
on
You
somebody.
never get it back. I tell them that. You walk
Yeah.
into the room as a slob, you'll always be a slob.
And haven't they done like studies behind that?
Yep.
It's impacting.
So, what would be your farewell knowledge, your parting knowledge?
Oh, I think I already did that.
You wouldn't offer anything else, as a to everybody, to anybody, not
No, I'm just
teachers,
trying
not
to think.
students.
You
put
just
me on
sum
the
it up,
spot.
you know.
Oh, I like to put people on the spot. Pressure's good.
People who know me say I'm very often not speechless, but
Well, I finally won.
Hey,
I have
you
the power
won.
in my hands.
You got him, yeah.
Oh boy.
Well, no, not to be redundant, but just I will give you one thing real quick.
I knew I could get it out of him. I knew it.
These kids come into my room and they're so afraid to try something because they're afraid they're going to fail. Somewhere along the line, we taught these kids that if they get it wrong, they're going to get killed or something, and not even try.
Yeah, wear your blanket.
Huh?
Wear your blanket. Bundle up.
Bubble wrap them.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and I don't get it. And the kids come up to me and say, well, I hooked this thing up, but I was afraid to do this. And I go, why? And these are the words that were given to me when I was at the University of Harvard. We had just gotten the brand new IBM 8086 computers, the original PCs. They were $8,000 a piece, and the only thing it could do was come on and light up a screen. It really didn't do much else. And my professor said, go down to the lab and push a button on the keyboard. He said, if that thing blows up, IBM is going to make you a very rich man. Try it. What's going to happen? What's the worst that happens? The kids coming in today, they're not stupid. I think they're a lot more intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Terrified. if I push that, I get in trouble, or maybe it'll explode. It's just, God,
Or money will get wasted, or
whatever their
right,
inane fear is. But I said, you're supposed to fail in a school. That's why you go to school. If you knew everything about this, I'd tell you to drag your ass because I'm not teaching you anything. I want you to screw it up, and that's the hardest thing as a teacher, as a tradesman. See, we have 13 trades. You get a plumber come in there. This happened to a friend of mine. You know, he would stand there and he'd watch the kid, and he knew he was going to screw up the job. And he would stop him and he would try to fix it and go, no, don't do that. You have to let the kid fail. And then you straighten it out. Because if they don't fail, if they don't see what they did, okay, stop him if he's going to lose an arm, or he's going to, something's going to blow in his face and maim him. Obviously, safety first. But if you're putting a pipe crooked, no, let him solder it crooked. Then get the level out and say, hey, really, it should have been level.
Yeah.
And critique it. That's going to go a lot farther. And it's very hard for a tradesperson to stand there and watch someone do it wrong. You have to tie my hands behind my back and gag me because I don't want them to do it wrong. I want them to do it right. But they will never learn until they make a mistake, and then you remediate.
Be okay with failing. Yeah, great.
Well,
And
there's
be
an old
okay
saying:
with
if you don't fail at least
telling
3 things a day, you're not trying hard enough.
I like that. Like that a lot.
That's a great saying to
Well,
conclude on.
that's a tech school
Yep.
idiom.
It's been a pleasure hosting you, George. Thanks for joining
Didn't I
us.
host you?
It's a two-way street, like you said in the
Okay.
beginning.
I
Giving
like-
and receiving.
I like
it requires
bilateral.
both
That's
of us.
cool. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, George.
You're welcome. Anytime.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Peace.
Bye.
Peace.